Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine day 2 with day 3. So day 2 is the first full day, where it starts off in the morning and then runs until 8 p.m. Now this particular one, we had a little bit of fun with it, so I'll talk about that in a minute. And then I was able to get a couple of pickups, just a handful. But first, a little bit of a general kind of show vibe-y thing, as far as that's concerned, is that it was actually pretty good. Traffic was brisk in a lot of the different areas. I guess it'll vary depending on the dealer in question and what they had. But I found a lot of the dealers there had at least a decent amount of people around. And I saw money changing hands, I saw cards changing hands, so there seemed to be at least a willingness on a lot of dealers' cases to be willing to actually negotiate a little bit, and I experienced a little bit of that myself. I made 2 different offers on 2 different cards, bumped the price down a little bit, and then they thought about it for a moment and then said, yeah. So it's one of those things I didn't have to fight them too hard, which actually was good. That was something I was kind of concerned about going into it, that some of them would be a little bit stubborn with it. But I found for the most part, at least the ones that I was dealing with, seemed to be fairly reasonable. And my buddy who sets up at the show, who usually does a brisk business, was busy basically the whole time there. I visited a couple of different times, and every single time his table was surrounded with folks looking at stuff, money changing hands, and there was a lot going on as far as that's concerned. So from that perspective, it seemed to be pretty good. Now, I hung around with this one. I wanted to see a couple more tables, so I did get a chance to do that. The other piece of the puzzle is also I wanted to chat with some folks, so some folks did come by and say hi, so thank you to those of you that did, and I appreciate that. And again, if you see me at one of those shows for that, feel free to come by and say hi, introduce yourself. Even if you don't leave comments or anything, feel free to at least say hello. So it's very encouraging that a lot of different folks have been watching the channel and enjoying a lot of the stuff, especially the live streams. The live streams seem to be a thing that folks at least put on in the background while they're sorting cards or enjoying for a variety of different things. So that was really good. Now, the other piece of the puzzle that I found very interesting was that, obviously, in addition to hanging out with folks and finding some opportunities, as I mentioned, the theme of the show has been, for the most part, that some of the deals I've done have already been kind of prepared ahead of time. But I did have 2 pickups this time around that actually were new. So specifically, I saw it at a table and we ended up doing it. So first, I'll do a kind of a fun one. That was a bit of a random find, but I'll give Yannick credit for this one because he saw it. So this is from a company called Stewart, and it was from back in the WWF days. So we've got this Macho Man Randy Savage and Elizabeth Stewart kind of, I guess, panel or whatever you want to call it. So you got this little contest thing. You basically could collect the letters to spell and win instantly. And this contest closes in July 15, 1988. So unfortunately it has expired, but it's kind of cool. I did see one of these actually in a PSA graded holder, but it was there without the little tab at the bottom. So it is kind of interesting. I need to do a little more research on this, but I thought it was kind of neat. And this is Macho Man kind of as apex in the late 80s there with Elizabeth. So kind of interesting. It might have been around the time actually he won the title. Or maybe just after that, maybe 88. I'm trying to remember if that's when Mega Powers collided or not, or maybe just before that. Maybe around the time of the tournament. I have to double check the timing on that. But either way, it's a cool piece from the late 80s. So Macho Man, yep, you got to enjoy that. Now, second one was one that, as I said, I had already kind of prepared ahead of time, and I worked out the deal. We came to terms, and then I met up with them at the expo to see the card and then finalize the deal. So we were able to do it. Very easy deal to work with. So this is for 96-97 Leaf, Fire on Ice. So I'm going to see if I can get a little bit of light for you. Yeah. So it's funny because I've got the window out here to get a little bit of light. For a little while, it was like looking into the sun, and now it's a little bit overcast, but still bright enough to be able to show. So let's see if I can do that for you. So that's a Fire on Ice. So I don't know if you guys are too familiar with these. Now these, a couple of them have come up on eBay recently, so maybe somebody's breaking a set. But for the most part, these dried up years ago, and for whatever reason, they're much harder than the print run would lead you to believe, because they're numbered to 2500. So I don't know if I can pick that up. Yeah, there we go. 2500, which should be honestly common as dirt. These things should be available all the time. And I think Beckett has this for $6. And even the one that went on eBay that I think sold, I didn't see it, but it sold probably for a little bit less than what I paid. It sold for like $70 US. And then I paid 120 Canadian for this one, which I was fine with, given that I hadn't run across too many of them. And this is one of the few ones in the late 90s period that I needed that really shouldn't be that difficult technically. I've certainly gotten cards that were on paper a lot tougher, but these ones, for whatever reason, have proven to be difficult. So I was glad to add that one, and that's a great addition to that piece of the collection. And then this other one is a more modern one. The sticker actually is going to be part of the story for this one. So this is 2019-2020 The Cup. This is the all-time alum autograph. So it is the gold version. So nice clean autograph. These are numbered to 50 for the gold version. Neat card. It's one of those things, I didn't need it per se, but it's one of those things I always like adding Medano autographs to my collection when I can, the certified ones. So they listed it for 125, which isn't ridiculous. I kind of had to reverse engineer what I would pay on eBay if I came across one like US dollars, translated, add the shipping, add the additional costs. So 125 really wasn't out of the realm. But I just asked, it's like 100. And they thought about it for a moment, looked back and said, yep, done. And shake hands, you know, money changes hands, and we're done. So we add another card to the collection. Now I did update the Medano count slightly, so it should be 2,416 total different Mike Medano cards, all included and everything, including another autograph to add to that, and another one checked off the 90s checklist, which is always a huge bonus. That's the ones that I'm really key on picking up because they've tended to dry up, and that list is dwindling every day, and it gets a little bit smaller all the time. And unfortunately, a lot of dealers don't think to bring 90s inserts because, you know, if you're carting around a lot of stuff, that's not going to be the priority, and a lot of people just aren't looking for it, at least not yet. So like I said, for the most part, really successful a couple of days. Today is Saturday, so now I'm having I had a little bit of brunch, finishing up my coffee here, enjoying it, and then we'll head in a little bit. But as I said, I'm going to use this one, and we're going to include day 3 footage into it, and hopefully I'll be able to capture some stuff with the camera so that we can check it out, and I'll see if I can do one of those little time lapses from last time. This camera can technically do it, but I don't know if it'll do as well as the other one, but it is a lot lighter and easier to carry around, so we'll see what we can do and see if we run into any of the other folks. So here we are back in the hotel room after all the festivities of day 3. Now from the preamble that covered kind of a little bit of day 1 and day 2, what I'll do with this part is I'm going to show off some cards, but at the same time I'm also going to kind of cover some of the gaps missed in the original part of it. Since it's kind of a day 2, day 3 thing, I'll finish off 1 or 2 more points about day 2. Now, obviously, in day 2, I did mention that there was going to be a PSA Canada Appreciation Night, which we did participate in. We had a lot of fun with. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of it on my end. Now, that isn't to say we don't have some footage of it. I think Yannick was able to capture some stuff for that, but I'll probably talk to him later on, and maybe we'll include that as part of the PSA Canada, a compilation of clips and things like that. I don't have access to it, so I'm not going to include it in my vlog. But otherwise, I do have a picture of myself and the Casa Slapshot, which I'll include hopefully here. So that was part of kind of what we did as far as participating in it. It was one of those things we basically just kind of stood back, let everybody have a good time doing what they were doing, and they said, hey, would you like to take a couple of pictures with the cast? And I said, yep, and a lot of us ended up taking advantage of that were kind of helping out with it. And then we moved on to the customer appreciation side of things. From that perspective, it was nice chatting with some folks, trying to hand out some of the drink tickets. I did mention that. And in the same vein, I will also say from the second evening, got back, it was a little bit later, however, we were still able to do a live stream. Now that was something that I wanted to make sure I mentioned. We were able to do a live stream on the channel, which was great. So Eric Sanderson-Orr was able to join in from the hotel room, and then Jason, Cards and Comics, was able to join us. I had invited him previously, and we were able to make it work. He was very accommodating, so thank you to Jason for allowing us to kind of start a little bit later than we would normally be the case, but we were able to kind of accommodate the schedule, and then the fact it was in the hotels and all that stuff. So it was a great conversation. He brought a lot to the table as far as good information and good conversation, and then we chatted a little bit after, so it was a great opportunity to do that. It's kind of a live section with the card show. So it was one of those things I wanted to do at least one live from the show, and we were able to manage that. So that was great. Now, aside from that, going into day 3, for the most part, really hadn't done too much as far as actually picking up too many cards. And that hasn't changed a lot, to be honest. I picked up really one more card, and I also did get a chance to go halvesies on an AEW Spectrum pack. So I'll actually be able to show you a clip of me opening that shortly. So if I still have sharp enough nails for this.
I use my teeth. I think I'm joking.
No, I believe you. I believe you. All right. By the way, just out of curiosity, what's the best poll you've seen out of one of the ones you watched?
I've seen the MJF Diamond Auto.
Oh, nice.
I've seen one of those.
All right.
I think Titan pulled one.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, they're usually pretty good. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the breaker thing where I'm putting
no worries.
So I'm going to start off here. All right. That's good. Right
nice
there.
Start.
That's a good start. So I'll put them in the pack as we go. There you go. I like Malachi. That's a good solid. Oh.
I know who gets that.
So at least we got one. At least we got one PC. Yeah. All right. So next come up, I think, is the
auto. No, the numbered base.
Oh, the numbered base. That's right. Yes. Sure. That's got a Canadian connection to it. So that's the out of 50. I mean, that's the out of 50 is the red one. So hold on. I can do.
Do you want to do the auto last?
We can. Yeah. So 1 second here. I'll use Britt Baker here. 16 of 50.
Nice.
Captain Charisma. All right, so I think the auto is right after that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the bottom two.
Yeah. So let me grab this. We're gonna do that in mem now. Cute. Is that Ethan Page? That's right. That's solid. That's another Canadian one. I like Ethan. All right. So next we got the Tony Schiavone.
Right.
Which actually goes well with the Brit, to be honest, from the perspective of thematically. All right. So we're ready for the auto?
Yes, sir.
All right. Here we go.
Layla Hirsch.
All right.
So it's a rookie auto.
Yep.
She's actually still out for injury right now, but Layla Hirsch. All right, sir. That is the box. Yep.
Okay, now as you well saw, we rolled open that pack. Not quite as crazy as the first pack, but some decent stuff in there as far as that's concerned, so I'll go through them quickly. So we've got the Kenny Omega base card, which is a solid one, certainly a solid choice. And then we've got the Malachi Black base card as well. And then this one was a big one. So like I said, when we went halvesies, we kind of agreed that if anybody pulled a PC card, it would be theirs, and then we would figure out the rest. So I ended up pulling a base card of Dr. Britt Baker DMD, so that's going with that piece of the collection, so that's great. This one's kind of a fun one. So we have a red parallel of Christian Cage, and these are numbered to 50. Let's see if I can get that in focus. There we go. So numbered to 50. So these are the red ones. And then we did have the autograph, and that was Layla Hirsch. Now this one's actually pretty sweet. As far as the memorabilia piece, we ended up with Ethan Page. So probably out of them, I'm probably going to personally pick this one up as part of this, and then I'll compensate for the rest of it so that we can split the rest of it the way we decided to do. Some of this stuff is going to go on eBay, so the stuff that's not PC. And we end up with the Tony Schiavone memorabilia piece. Kind of a good bookend with the Britt Baker one. So pretty interesting. Not, like I said, not quite as crazy as the first pack, but solid. And in some cases, like I said, I've definitely seen worse in some of these. But it's one of those things. It is a little bit of a feast or famine product. I like it for what it is, but it's one of those things where it's going to be very much hit or miss. So that's going to be it for me as far as opening up boxes or packs or anything of that. The rest is going to be me focusing on singles. So I think that'll be probably the better play going forward. And that'll be how we're going to do it. Now, one more thing I'm going to show you here. I did mention that we, like I said, not a ton of footage as far as the show is concerned, but I was able to set up the tripod at one point with the camera to be able to do a quick time lapse, because I've done these time lapses with the vlogs before. So this time lapse is going to be from the PSA Canada booth facing outward towards folks. So a little bit of a short time lapse, not as long as the last one, but I'll play it for you now, and then I'll finish up with the last card, and that'll be the end of the day 2/day 3 vlog. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed that. As you can see, there was a lot of activity going on there, so that was maybe about a 20 or 30 minute snippet of time at the booth. So it worked out pretty well as far as that's concerned, so hopefully you were able to get something out of that. Now we're going to finish up here with my one big pickup. I ended up, I actually came across this one by accident. I was trying to scan the tables and do a little bit more diligent job as far as going through the tables, but it's one of those things where most of the time a lot of stuff kind of just starts to gloss over. But I did catch something out of the corner of my eye, came back around to look at it, and asked if I could look at it closer, and it turned out to be a nice card that I definitely wanted to add to the collection. So stuff like this is always something that is going to be right in my wheelhouse. So this is 2013-2014 from the Cup, and this is the UD Foundations patch. So it's the patch version out of 10. So you can see the Medano here is from the CCM portion of the patch. And 3 solid patch pieces. We got a little piece of the star and then a multicolored patch piece here. And like I said, this one's out of 10. So it's a good solid addition. Always love adding stuff from the Cup, and anytime we can add something like this to the collection already, that's always a huge bonus. 2013-14 Foundations patch. Now, with that all said, that just leaves us with the last day of the expo. It's always going to be more of a truncated day because, in all honesty, since I'm not setting up as a dealer, I don't really have to be there for the majority of the time. Like I said, we did get some footage for the PSA Canada stuff. That's something we'll compile and then work on. There is a couple of things that I want to add to it as far as adding some audio and a little bit of chatting that hopefully will go along with the video as well. But that's something I'll work out on our end of it. Otherwise, it's been a very successful expo. I've had the chance to chat with a number of different folks, reacquaint with some folks I know, and then meet some new folks that I didn't. Thank you to all those of you who did come by and at least say hello, or you saw me on the way and flagged me down, or you came by and said, hey, you know, are you Carlos? And I was like, absolutely. And we ended up having a bit of a chat, and a lot happened a couple of different times throughout there, and it was always a pleasure chatting with the different folks, so that's always a great thing. Now, aside from that, one thing that's left over, and I kind of left out in the previous part, but I wanted to mention it here, was that today was kind of a moving day overall. Like I said, I did pick up this card, was able to have a little bit of fun opening the pack and everything, so that was cool. But at the same time, also, it meant finishing off some of the business that I was missing to do previously. I had actually grabbed the wrong box on day 2, so I wasn't able to do the PSA submission or the COMC submission. So both of those were taken care of today. So fairly early when I got in, the first thing I went over to do basically is fill out the rest of the forms, hand off the stuff to PSA. So we're going to take care of that, and then we'll hopefully get a chance to see that down the road here. And then additionally, I went over to COMC. Very smooth transaction. Everybody was there, very helpful there. We were able to get everything set up and get it attached to the account so that I'll be able to get those processed and hopefully move some of those. For the most part, inputting the stuff in COMC is going to be stuff that I'm hoping to offload or sell off. And it's going to be one of those things where I'll price it kind of in a way of to move, basically price it to move so that I can kind of get it out of my hair. And then at the same time, hopefully somebody will be able to get a great deal and it'll be a bit of a win-win. As far as the PSA items, the majority of them are going to be PC stuff. And there's a couple of very high-end Medano pieces that I have accumulated over the years that I wanted to have encapsulated as well. And when those come in, hopefully those ones should look good. And at the same time, those are going to be in the PC anyway, so we're going to have some fun with that. So as far as that's concerned, I would really consider this a very successful expo already. It's just going to be finalizing one or two. I think I've got one more deal on the table that I think I'm going to be able to work out. However, we're going to have to see, and we'll have some conversations about it. And I'll try to finish that off tomorrow. If I can't, I can't. But at the same time, that'll be the last big piece. And if that's the case, that'll be how we're going to finish things off. And I'll do the day 4 back from the house. Otherwise, that'll be it. A great, successful expo. Thank you to everybody once again. Otherwise, more videos coming up on the channel. We'll do the live stream back next week, like usual, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. PSA Canada should be back on regular schedule on Thursday as well. It'll be 9 p.m. Eastern Time for that one. So Thursday, 9 p.m., and then Friday, 8 p.m., kind of the usual time, so we should be able to manage that. Also, if you got any comments or questions, feel free to throw them in there. I'm happy to respond to those. Like if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you in the next one.